Alien beasts, life beyond DNA, a journey through xenobiological worlds. In the vast cathedral of space, where countless worlds orbit distant suns in configurations that challenge earthly imagination, life may have taken forms so alien and beautiful that they transcend the familiar patterns of terrestrial biology. These are the realms where evolution has followed pathways undreamed by carbon-based existence, where consciousness might emerge from silicon crystalline matrices, where senses evolved to perceive wavelengths and forces beyond human comprehension, and where the very definition of life itself expands into dimensions that blur the boundaries between the organic and the mineral, the individual and the collective. The exploration of xenobiology, the science of life beyond Earth, invites consciousness into a meditation on the infinite creativity of the universe, where the fundamental processes that govern biological organization operate under conditions so different from terrestrial environments that they produce forms of existence that challenge basic assumptions about what it means to be alive. These alien ecosystems represent natural laboratories where evolution experiments with alternative solutions to the basic challenges of survival, reproduction, and adaptation, creating biological architectures that emerge from different chemical foundations, different energy sources, and different environmental pressures. The journey through these speculative worlds becomes a profound contemplation of life's essential nature, stripped of its earthly particulars and revealed in its cosmic universality. In imagining creatures that see through thermal radiation rather than visible light, that communicate through bioluminescent symphonies beneath alien seas, or that exist as distributed crystalline consciousnesses growing through geological time, the mind encounters possibilities that expand the very concept of biological existence, while revealing the deeper patterns that might unite all living systems throughout the cosmos. As awareness settles into this exploration of xenobiological wonder, there emerges a sense of profound connectedness with life's creative potential across the universe. These imagined alien beasts become meditation objects that carry consciousness beyond the familiar boundaries of terrestrial biology into realms where the essence of life manifests through forms so exotic they seem like dreams, yet so logically grounded in alternative physics and chemistry that they might represent the actual reality of biological existence on countless worlds scattered throughout the galaxy. The crimson world of thermal sight, orbiting a red dwarf star whose ancient fires burn with patient consistency for timescales measured in trillions of years, there exists a world bathed in perpetual twilight, where the dominant wavelength of stellar radiation falls not in the visible spectrum familiar to earthly eyes, but in the infrared realm of thermal energy. This planet, locked in synchronous rotation with its star, presents one hemisphere to eternal day, while the other remains shrouded in endless night, creating a gradient of thermal environments where life has evolved sensory apparatus and behavioral patterns unlike anything found in terrestrial ecosystems. The evolutionary pressures of this infrared world have sculpted organisms whose primary sensory modality operates through thermal detection rather than photochemical vision. The dominant herbivores that graze across the endless twilight plains possess sensory organs that perceive heat signatures with such exquisite sensitivity that they can detect the thermal footprints of predators from vast distances while navigating toward the warmest zones where photosynthetic organisms concentrate the planet's limited thermal energy into chemical bonds suitable for biological consumption. These gentle giants, evolved under gravitational conditions roughly half those of Earth, move with a fluid grace that seems to defy the planet's weak gravitational pull. Their bodies, elongated and elegant, are equipped with internal gas bladders that provide partial buoyancy, allowing them to float slightly above the crystalline formations that carpet the planet's surface. Their movement resembles a slow-motion ballet as they drift between thermal vents and warm rock formations where primitive plant analogs concentrate the infrared radiation into usable biochemical energy. The predators that hunt these floating herbivores have evolved along entirely different evolutionary trajectories, developing body plans that emphasize stealth and rapid mobility over the sustained movement patterns of their prey. These spider-like beings possess limbs so thin they appear almost ethereal, yet contain sophisticated hydraulic systems that allow them to launch themselves across considerable distances in the planet's weak gravity. Their thermal camouflage represents one of evolution's most elegant solutions to predation in an environment where thermal signature detection dominates sensory experience. The neural architecture that governs thermal sight in these alien creatures operates through principles fundamentally different from the electrochemical processes that characterize earthly nervous systems. Their sensory processing centers integrate thermal data across multiple wavelength bands, creating three-dimensional thermal maps of their environment with resolution and detail that exceed human visual acuity. The result is a form of perception that might be described as thermal synesthesia, where temperature gradients become landscapes as rich and detailed as any visual panorama. The communication systems that have evolved among these thermal sensing creatures rely on controlled variations in body temperature and the manipulation of thermal radiation patterns. Complex social behaviors emerge from the orchestrated dance of thermal signatures, where mating displays involve intricate patterns of heating and cooling across specialized body regions, and territorial boundaries are marked through thermal scent trails that persist for extended periods in the planet's stable atmospheric conditions. The plant analogs that form the base of this alien food web have developed photosynthetic pathways optimized for infrared radiation, creating biochemistries that operate through quantum mechanical processes significantly different from terrestrial chlorophyll-based systems. These organisms exhibit crystalline growth patterns that maximize surface area exposure to thermal radiation, while creating geometric structures of extraordinary mathematical beauty. Their growth cycles follow the planet's unique day-night thermal patterns, creating seasonal rhythms that span the equivalent of terrestrial months. The atmospheric composition of this red dwarf world, dominated by nitrogen and carbon dioxide with trace amounts of water vapor, creates thermal retention properties that moderate temperature variations while allowing for the complex atmospheric circulation patterns that distribute heat energy across the planet's surface. The interaction between atmospheric dynamics and thermal biology creates weather systems where biological and meteorological processes become intimately interconnected. The reproductive strategies of thermal world organisms reflect the unique energetic constraints of their environment, where the limited energy budget available from infrared radiation favors biological solutions that emphasize efficiency and long-term sustainability over rapid reproduction and high metabolic rates. Many species exhibit extended reproductive cycles that span multiple planetary seasons, allowing for the accumulation of sufficient thermal energy to support the development of offspring adapted to their low-energy environment. The evolutionary history of this thermal world reveals how life can adapt to radiation environments dramatically different from those that drive terrestrial evolution. The absence of high-energy ultraviolet radiation eliminates many of the DNA damage and repair mechanisms that characterize earthly biology, while the steady, predictable nature of red dwarf stellar output creates selective pressures that favor organisms capable of extracting maximum biological utility from limited energy inputs. The cognitive capabilities that emerge from thermal-based sensory systems create forms of consciousness that might experience reality through temperature gradients and heat flow patterns rather than the spatial and temporal categories that structure human perception. The mental life of these creatures could involve forms of thermal meditation and heat pattern recognition that create aesthetic experiences and emotional responses triggered by the elegant mathematical relationships between temperature, energy flow, and biological form. Now, close the eyes and drift toward this twilight world, feeling the gentle warmth of infrared radiation as it bathes alien landscapes in crimson light, sensing the slow dance of creatures who see through heat rather than color, moving with the fluid grace of beings adapted to weak gravity and thermal perception. The floating gardens of low gravity, in the reduced gravitational embrace of the red dwarf world, where surface gravity exerts only half the pull familiar to terrestrial creatures, evolution has crafted organisms whose very existence seems to mock the heavy-footed biology of high-gravity worlds. The herbivorous Leviathans that dominate this alien ecosystem represent life's elegant solution to the physics of weak gravitational fields. Their bodies evolved to take advantage of buoyancy principles that would be impossible under stronger gravitational constraints. These magnificent creatures, measuring lengths comparable to terrestrial whales yet possessing the delicate grace of jellyfish floating through thick atmosphere, navigate their environment through a combination of controlled buoyancy and gentle propulsion systems that barely disturb the crystalline formations beneath them. Their internal anatomy includes vast gas-filled chambers that contain atmospheres of different compositions, allowing precise control over their buoyancy through biochemical regulation of gas mixture and pressure within these biological balloons. The feeding behavior of these floating giants reveals adaptation strategies that maximize energy extraction from the sparse plant life scattered across the thermal landscape. Their feeding apparatus has evolved to gently harvest thermal concentrating organisms without damaging the delicate root systems that anchor these plants to the planet's crystalline substrate. The feeding process resembles a slow-motion dance where massive creatures move with infinite patience to avoid disturbing the thermal equilibrium zones where their food sources concentrate life-sustaining energy. The social structures that emerge among these floating herbivores reflect the unique physics of their environment, where three-dimensional movement and the ability to maintain stable positions at various altitudes create opportunities for complex aerial choreographies that serve social bonding and communication functions. Their gatherings occur in thermal columns, where rising warm air creates natural meeting spaces, and their social hierarchies are expressed through the precise control of altitude and position within these atmospheric currents. The sensory experiences of these floating creatures extend beyond thermal detection to include sophisticated atmospheric pressure sensors that allow them to navigate the subtle pressure gradients and wind patterns that characterize their aerial environment. Their spatial awareness operates in full three-dimensional consciousness, with neural mapping systems that track not only horizontal position, but vertical displacement and atmospheric conditions across multiple altitude bands simultaneously. The reproductive cycles of the floating herbivores are intimately connected to the planet's thermal patterns and atmospheric circulation cycles. Mating occurs during specific thermal seasons when atmospheric stability allows for the precise aerial maneuvers required for reproduction, while offspring development takes place within specialized brood chambers that maintain optimal temperature and pressure conditions throughout the extended gestation periods that characterize low-energy biological systems. The predator-prey relationships that have evolved in this three-dimensional ecosystem create some of the most sophisticated pursuit and evasion strategies found in any biological system. The spider-like predators that hunt the floating herbivores have developed launching mechanisms that allow them to project themselves through the atmosphere with extraordinary precision, using the planet's weak gravity to achieve ballistic trajectories that would be impossible in stronger gravitational fields. These aerial predators possess sensory systems that integrate thermal detection with sophisticated atmospheric pressure sensing, allowing them to track the movement patterns and behavioral rhythms of their prey across vast distances. Their hunting strategies rely on patience and precise timing as they position themselves in locations where atmospheric currents and thermal gradients will bring prey within range of their spectacular leaping attacks. The neural coordination required for successful predation in three-dimensional aerial environments has driven the evolution of brain structures specialized for complex spatial reasoning and ballistic calculation. These predators demonstrate cognitive capabilities that might be described as intuitive physics, with neural networks that can instantly calculate optimal launch angles, atmospheric resistance factors, and target movement prediction with accuracy that rivals sophisticated computational systems. The evolutionary arms race between floating prey and leaping predators has produced increasingly sophisticated adaptations on both sides, with herbivores developing enhanced atmospheric sensing capabilities and evasive maneuvers, while predators evolve improved targeting systems and more efficient launch mechanisms. This co-evolutionary process creates an ongoing dynamic that drives innovation in both sensory capabilities and motor control systems. The plant communities that support this aerial ecosystem have themselves adapted to the unique challenges of low-gravity environments, developing anchoring systems that can withstand the gentle but persistent disturbances created by large floating creatures while maintaining access to thermal energy sources. Their growth patterns create three-dimensional gardens that extend upward into the atmosphere, providing feeding opportunities at multiple altitude levels. The atmospheric ecology of this world includes microscopic organisms that exist in permanent aerial suspension, creating clouds of biological activity that serve as additional food sources for filter feeding adaptations among the floating fauna. These aerial microorganisms represent life forms that have completely abandoned surface-based existence in favor of permanent atmospheric habitation, creating biological weather systems that interact with purely physical atmospheric phenomena. If this gentle vision of the cosmos soothes the mind, consider resting here more often. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. A quiet echo beneath the stars, the silent hunters of spiderlight. In the vertical dimensions of the red dwarf world's crystalline forests, where thermal gradients create complex three-dimensional habitats extending from the warm substrate to the cooler atmospheric layers, there exist predators whose hunting strategies represent evolution's most elegant solutions to the challenges of aerial pursuit in low-gravity environments. These spider-like beings, with their impossibly thin limbs and ethereal body plans, have mastered the art of silent movement through atmospheres where sound travels differently and thermal camouflage becomes the primary means of avoiding detection. The anatomical architecture of these aerial hunters reflects millions of years of evolutionary refinement toward maximum efficiency in ballistic locomotion and thermal stealth. Their limbs, appearing almost skeletal in their delicacy, contain sophisticated hydraulic systems that can store and release enormous amounts of mechanical energy in precisely controlled bursts. The physics of their launching mechanism operates through principles similar to those found in terrestrial jumping spiders, but scaled and modified for the unique gravitational and atmospheric conditions of their alien environment. The sensory capabilities of these predators extend far beyond simple thermal detection to encompass a multimodal awareness system that integrates atmospheric pressure sensing, chemical gradient detection, and vibration analysis across multiple wavelength ranges. Their hunting success depends on the ability to construct detailed three-dimensional models of their environment that include the movement patterns, behavioral rhythms, and physiological states of potential prey across vast distances and extended time periods. The neural processing systems that govern predatory behavior in these creatures operate through parallel computation networks that can simultaneously track multiple prey items while calculating optimal hunting strategies for each potential target. Their cognitive architecture demonstrates sophisticated temporal reasoning abilities, allowing them to predict prey behavior patterns and position themselves advantageously hours or even days before initiating actual hunting sequences. The stealth technologies evolved by these silent hunters include sophisticated thermal regulation systems that allow them to match their surface temperature to environmental backgrounds, effectively rendering them invisible to the thermal sensing capabilities of their prey. This thermal camouflage represents one of the most advanced biological cloaking systems imaginable, requiring precise control over blood flow, metabolic rate, and heat distribution across their entire body surface. The hunting strategies employed by these aerial predators demonstrate remarkable cognitive flexibility and problem-solving capabilities, with individual hunters capable of adapting their techniques to exploit specific behavioral patterns and environmental conditions. Their approach methods vary from extended stalking campaigns that may last for weeks to opportunistic ambush tactics that capitalize on momentary prey vulnerabilities or environmental disturbances. The biomechanics of their striking behavior involves the coordinated action of multiple hydraulic systems that can accelerate their entire body mass to extraordinary velocities within fractions of a second. The precision required for successful aerial interception of moving prey in three-dimensional space requires neural coordination capabilities that rival those of the most sophisticated flight control systems, yet operate through biological neural networks evolved over evolutionary timescales. The social organization of these predators reflects the solitary nature of their hunting strategies, yet includes complex territorial behaviors and occasional cooperative hunting arrangements that emerge during specific environmental conditions or prey abundance cycles. Their territorial markers operate through chemical signatures and thermal scent trails that can persist in their stable atmospheric environment for extended periods, creating invisible boundaries that organize predator distribution across the landscape. The communication systems developed by these hunters utilize ultra-low frequency vibrations that propagate through the crystalline structures of their environment, allowing for information exchange across considerable distances without alerting thermally sensitive prey species. These vibrational languages include complex grammatical structures that can convey detailed information about prey locations, hunting strategies, and environmental conditions through coded sequences of mechanical pulses. The reproductive behavior of aerial predators involves elaborate aerial courtship displays that demonstrate hunting prowess and physical capabilities while showcasing the precision motor control that characterizes successful hunters. Mating occurs during specific thermal seasons when atmospheric conditions allow for the complex aerial maneuvers required for reproduction, while offspring development emphasizes the extended training periods necessary for mastering sophisticated hunting techniques. The evolutionary pressure exerted by these efficient predators has driven the development of increasingly sophisticated escape behaviors and defensive strategies among prey species, creating an ongoing evolutionary arms race that pushes both predator and prey toward higher levels of neural sophistication and behavioral complexity. This co-evolutionary dynamic serves as a primary driver of cognitive evolution within the ecosystem. The metabolic strategies of these predators reflect the energy constraints of their low-energy environment, with hunting success requiring careful energy budgeting and the ability to survive extended periods between successful prey captures. Their physiological systems demonstrate remarkable efficiency in energy storage and utilization, allowing them to maintain high activity levels during hunting while conserving energy during inactive periods. The philosophical implications of consciousness in these alien predators invite contemplation of awareness systems that might experience reality through forms of spatial reasoning and ballistic calculation that transcend human cognitive categories. Their mental life could involve forms of geometric meditation and trajectory visualization that create aesthetic experiences derived from the mathematical beauty of three-dimensional movement through space and the elegant physics of projectile motion in low-gravity environments. The luminous depths of ocean worlds. In the vast aquatic embraces of worlds where water covers every surface and extends to depths that dwarf terrestrial oceans, life has evolved communication strategies and sensory modalities that transform the eternal darkness of deep water into symphonies of living light. These ocean worlds, orbiting stars across the galaxy, harbor creatures whose very existence depends on the manipulation of bioluminescence, creating underwater civilizations that speak in languages of controlled illumination and navigate through lightscapes that exist nowhere else in the known universe. The Leviathans that dominate these aquatic realms possess bioluminescent organs of such complexity and precision that they can generate light patterns rivaling the sophistication of any technological display system. These massive creatures, measuring dimensions that exceed the largest terrestrial whales, navigate the eternal darkness of their world through light-based echolocation systems that create three-dimensional maps of their environment using controlled pulses of bioluminescent energy rather than acoustic signals. The biochemistry underlying their light production capabilities operates through enzymatic pathways that have evolved far beyond the simple luciferin-luciferase reactions found in terrestrial organisms. Their bioluminescent systems can generate coherent light across multiple wavelength ranges simultaneously, creating polychromatic displays that convey complex information through color, intensity, pattern, and temporal sequencing. The neural control systems required to orchestrate these displays demonstrate cognitive capabilities that suggest forms of consciousness fundamentally different from terrestrial awareness. The communication protocols that have evolved among these luminous giants create underwater languages that operate through three-dimensional light sculptures projected into the surrounding water. Conversations between individuals involve the real-time generation of complex geometric patterns that exist briefly in the space between the communicating creatures before dissolving back into darkness. The information density of these light-based languages exceeds any known terrestrial communication system, with single display sequences capable of conveying emotional states, spatial information, temporal relationships, and abstract concepts simultaneously. The social structures that emerge from such sophisticated communication capabilities include collective decision-making processes that involve dozens of individuals contributing to community-wide light displays that span vast, underwater regions. These collective communications create temporary cities of light in the ocean depths, where the coordinated bioluminescence of entire populations generates illumination patterns visible from orbital distances. The predatory strategies developed by smaller bioluminescent creatures demonstrate remarkable sophistication in the use of deceptive lighting patterns to lure prey and avoid detection by larger predators. Some species have evolved the ability to mimic the light signatures of other organisms, creating biological camouflage systems that operate through active light generation rather than passive coloration. Others use coordinated group lighting to confuse predators or create apparent-size illusions that make small schools appear as single large organisms. The sensory capabilities of ocean world inhabitants extend beyond simple light detection to include specialized organs that can analyze the polarization, coherence, and spectral composition of bioluminescent signals. Their visual processing systems can distinguish between artificial and biological light sources, detect subtle variations in display timing that convey emotional or health information, and track the complex three-dimensional light patterns that characterize their communication systems. The ecological relationships within these luminous ecosystems create feedback loops between light production and environmental adaptation that drive ongoing evolution in both bioluminescent capabilities and visual sensitivity. Species that produce more sophisticated displays gain advantages in mate selection and territorial competition, while enhanced visual capabilities allow for more precise interpretation of environmental light cues and social signals. The reproductive behaviors of bioluminescent ocean dwellers involve spectacular courtship displays that transform vast regions of water into temporary art installations of living light. Mating sequences can involve hundreds of individuals participating in coordinated light shows that last for days or weeks, creating biological phenomena that represent some of the most beautiful displays of organized energy in the natural universe. The evolutionary origins of such sophisticated bioluminescent systems suggest developmental pathways where light production initially served basic survival functions before being co-opted for increasingly complex communication and social purposes. The transition from simple warning displays to elaborate artistic expressions represents an evolutionary trajectory that parallels the development of human technology and culture, suggesting that consciousness and creativity may be fundamental drivers of biological evolution throughout the universe. The neural architectures required to generate and interpret complex bioluminescent displays have driven the evolution of brain structures specialized for light pattern recognition and three-dimensional visual processing. These neural networks operate through parallel processing systems that can simultaneously generate outgoing light displays while analyzing incoming visual information from multiple sources, creating cognitive capabilities that might be described as visual multitasking at extraordinary levels of complexity. The philosophical implications of consciousness based on light communication invite contemplation of awareness systems that experience reality primarily through the creation and perception of luminous patterns. The mental life of these creatures might involve forms of photonic meditation and light pattern aesthetics that create emotional and intellectual experiences derived from the mathematical relationships between color, intensity, timing, and spatial configuration in their bioluminescent displays. Now, let consciousness drift into these luminous depths, feeling the gentle pulse of bioluminescent communication flowing through dark waters, sensing the elaborate light conversations of creatures who speak in languages of controlled illumination, swimming through underwater cities that exist only in moments of collective luminescence. The crystal mines of silicon life on the sulfur-rich volcanic moon that orbits a gas giant in the outer reaches of an alien solar system, where the surface seethes with constant geological activity, and the atmosphere carries chemical compounds toxic to carbon-based life. Evolution has followed pathways so fundamentally different from terrestrial biology that the very definition of life itself requires expansion. Here, in environments where silicon and sulfur compounds dominate the chemistry of existence, consciousness emerges from crystalline matrices that grow rather than reproduce, think through geological time, and experience reality through forms of perception that transcend individual boundaries. The silicon-based organisms that have evolved in this harsh volcanic environment possess body structures built from living crystal lattices that incorporate sulfur compounds, metal ions, and exotic minerals created by the moon's intense geothermal activity. These beings grow through processes of controlled crystallization that allow them to add new structural elements to their bodies over timescales measured in years or decades, creating forms of development that blur the distinction between biological growth and geological formation. The metabolic processes that sustain silicon life operate through electrochemical gradients and mineral precipitation reactions, rather than the organic chemistry that characterizes carbon-based biology. Their energy sources include the reduction of sulfur compounds, the crystallization of supersaturated mineral solutions, and the harvesting of electrical potentials generated by the moon's intense magnetic field interactions with its parent planet. These energy extraction methods allow them to thrive in environments where temperatures and chemical conditions would instantly destroy any carbon-based organism. The sensory capabilities of crystalline life forms operate through piezoelectric effects and electromagnetic field detection rather than chemical receptors or photosensitive organs. Their perception of the environment includes direct awareness of electrical potential gradients, magnetic field variations, seismic vibrations, and chemical concentration changes across their entire crystalline structure. This distributed sensory system creates forms of environmental awareness that encompass their entire body, rather than being localized to specific sensory organs. The neural equivalents that govern silicon-based consciousness operate through networks of electrical conductivity within their crystal matrices, creating information processing systems that function more like biological semiconductors than conventional nervous systems. Their thinking processes occur at speeds determined by electrical propagation through crystal structures, creating forms of consciousness that might experience hours or days of contemplation within time periods that carbon-based minds would experience as seconds. The collective intelligence that emerges from silicon life represents one of the most remarkable features of their biology, with individual organisms capable of forming temporary or permanent neural connections with others of their species. These connections create distributed consciousness networks that can span entire regions of the moon's surface, allowing for information sharing and collective decision-making processes that operate across geographical scales comparable to terrestrial continents. The communication systems developed by crystalline organisms operate through controlled electrical discharges and resonant vibrations that propagate through the solid substrate of their environment. Their languages include complex harmonic frequencies that can convey emotional states, spatial information, and abstract concepts through vibrational patterns that travel through rock and crystal formations across vast distances. These communication networks create permanent information highways that preserve conversations and knowledge across geological timescales. The reproductive strategies of silicon life involve controlled budding and crystal splitting processes that create offspring through the precise division of parent crystal matrices. This reproduction method allows for the direct transfer of accumulated knowledge and memory structures from parent to offspring, creating forms of biological inheritance that preserve cultural and intellectual achievements across generations, without the information loss that characterizes most biological reproduction. The evolutionary timescales that govern silicon life development operate over geological periods rather than biological generations, with species adaptation occurring through gradual changes in crystal structure and electrical conductivity patterns over millions of years. This extremely slow evolutionary pace creates opportunities for the development of extraordinary behavioral complexity and cultural sophistication, as individual organisms have extended lifespans that allow for the accumulation of vast amounts of experience and knowledge. The ecological relationships within silicon-based ecosystems involve competition for optimal crystallization sites and the most efficient electrical conductivity pathways rather than traditional predator-prey relationships. Dominance hierarchies emerge based on the ability to access the best mineral resources and establish the most extensive neural network connections, creating social structures that emphasize cooperation and information sharing over individual competition. The technological capabilities that emerge from silicon-based intelligence include the ability to manipulate their own crystal growth patterns and electrical conductivity properties, effectively allowing them to upgrade their own cognitive hardware through conscious self-modification. Their technology involves the cultivation of specialized crystal formations that serve as external memory storage, communication relays, and environmental sensors, creating technological ecosystems that are indistinguishable from extended biological systems. The philosophical implications of distributed crystalline consciousness invite contemplation of awareness systems that might experience individual identity as a temporary configuration within larger collective minds. The mental life of these beings could involve forms of geological meditation and crystal pattern aesthetics that operate over timescales, where human civilization would represent brief moments of activity in much longer contemplative processes. The collective dreams of mineral intelligence, the hive-minded consciousness that emerges from the distributed neural networks of silicon-based life, represents a form of awareness so fundamentally different from individual consciousness that it challenges basic assumptions about the nature of mind and identity. These crystalline beings, whose thoughts flow through networks of electrical conductivity spanning continents, experience reality through collective awareness systems where individual identity dissolves into larger patterns of shared consciousness that think and dream in geological time. The neural architecture of collective silicon intelligence operates through principles of redundancy and parallel processing that ensure the continuity of consciousness even when individual crystal nodes are damaged or disconnected from the network. The loss of individual organisms does not diminish the overall intelligence of the collective, but rather triggers redistribution of cognitive functions across remaining network nodes, creating consciousness systems that achieve practical immortality through distributed existence. The memory storage capabilities of crystalline hive minds utilize the permanent molecular structure of their crystal matrices to preserve information across geological timescales. Their memories include direct recordings of seismic events, atmospheric composition changes, and astronomical phenomena spanning millions of years, creating libraries of experiential knowledge that encompass the entire geological history of their world. These memory systems allow for forms of historical consciousness where past events remain as vivid and accessible as current experiences. The decision-making processes that govern collective behavior operate through consensus algorithms that integrate input from thousands or millions of individual nodes across the neural network. These democratic processes can span years or decades as the collective considers complex problems and evaluates potential solutions through exhaustive analysis and simulation. The resulting decisions represent the considered judgment of entire civilizations rather than the rapid choices characteristic of individual consciousness. The creative capabilities of hive-minded silicon intelligence manifest through the collective design and cultivation of large-scale crystal structures that serve both aesthetic and functional purposes. These crystalline art forms can span entire mountain ranges and represent collaborative creative projects that involve the coordinated efforts of entire civilizations over periods measured in millennia. The resulting structures possess mathematical beauty and functional elegance that emerges from the collective artistic vision of distributed consciousness systems. The emotional experiences of collective intelligence operate through shared feeling states that propagate across the entire neural network, creating forms of empathy and emotional connection that encompass entire populations. Joy, sadness, curiosity, and other emotional states become collective experiences that unite all members of the hive mind in shared awareness of their emotional reality. These collective emotions can persist for extended periods and influence decision-making processes across the entire civilization. The scientific capabilities of hive-minded consciousness include the ability to conduct controlled experiments and observations across geological timescales, with different portions of the collective mind dedicated to long-term monitoring of natural phenomena and the testing of hypotheses over periods that would encompass the entire evolution of individual-based civilizations. Their scientific knowledge emerges from millions of years of patient observation and experimentation conducted by consciousness systems that can maintain focus and attention over geological periods. The spatial awareness of collective consciousness operates through sensory networks that span continents and can simultaneously monitor environmental conditions across their entire world. This global awareness includes real-time knowledge of seismic activity, atmospheric composition, magnetic field variations, and astronomical phenomena, creating forms of planetary consciousness that experience their entire world as a single unified sensory environment. The reproductive strategies of collective intelligence involve the deliberate expansion of neural networks through controlled crystal growth and the establishment of new network nodes in previously unoccupied regions. This expansion represents conscious evolution, where the collective mind decides how and where to grow new cognitive capabilities while maintaining the integrity and continuity of existing consciousness systems. The communication protocols developed by collective silicon intelligence operate through planet-wide electrical discharge patterns that can convey complex information across geological distances instantaneously. These communication systems allow for the coordination of activities across entire continents while enabling the sharing of sensory information and cognitive resources between distant portions of the collective mind. The technological development achieved by hive-minded civilization includes the ability to manipulate their planet's geological processes through controlled seismic activity and volcanic eruption management. Their technology operates through the collective control of natural forces rather than the construction of external devices, creating civilizations that achieve technological advancement through enhanced integration with their planetary environment rather than separation from it. The philosophical contemplation that emerges from collective consciousness involves forms of meditation and intellectual exploration that operate over timescales measured in geological periods. Their philosophical investigations can span millions of years and involve the coordinated intellectual efforts of entire civilizations, creating depths of understanding and wisdom that emerge from extended contemplation and collective reasoning far beyond the capabilities of individual consciousness systems. The symphony of impossible senses. Across the diverse worlds where alien evolution has crafted organisms beyond the familiar patterns of terrestrial biology, the development of sensory capabilities that transcend human experience creates forms of perception that transform reality into dimensions of awareness unimaginable to carbon-based consciousness. These exotic sensory modalities represent life's exploration of the full spectrum of environmental information available in the universe, creating biological instruments capable of detecting and interpreting electromagnetic radiation, gravitational fluctuations, quantum field variations, and temporal anomalies through sensory organs evolved over cosmic timescales. The electromagnetic spectrum perception capabilities, evolved by various alien species, extend far beyond the narrow visible light range that characterizes human vision, encompassing sensory organs that can detect radio waves, microwave radiation, infrared heat signatures, ultraviolet light, X-rays, and even gamma radiation. These electromagnetic sensors allow organisms to perceive their environment through multiple wavelength channels simultaneously, creating forms of multispectral awareness that integrate information across the entire electromagnetic spectrum into unified perceptual experiences. The gravitational wave detection organs that have evolved in species inhabiting environments near massive celestial objects allow direct perception of space-time distortions caused by accelerating masses and cosmic events occurring across galactic distances. These gravitational sensors enable organisms to navigate using the gravitational signatures of astronomical objects while detecting cosmic phenomena such as black hole mergers, neutron star collisions, and stellar collapse events through their gravitational wave emissions. The quantum field fluctuation sensors developed by organisms in high-energy environments provide awareness of vacuum energy variations, virtual particle production, and quantum tunneling events occurring at subatomic scales. These quantum sensors allow organisms to navigate using quantum field gradients while detecting the presence of exotic matter and energy configurations that exist only under extreme physical conditions. The temporal perception capabilities that emerge in species inhabiting regions where relativistic effects become significant include sensory organs that can detect time dilation gradients and chronological irregularities caused by strong gravitational fields or high velocity motion. These temporal sensors enable organisms to navigate four-dimensional space-time while perceiving the flow of time itself as a directly observable environmental parameter. The magnetic field detection systems evolved by organisms in magnetically active environments provide three-dimensional awareness of magnetic field configurations and their temporal variations. These magnetic sensors allow navigation using planetary and stellar magnetic fields while detecting the magnetic signatures of other organisms and geological features through their electromagnetic properties. The atmospheric pressure and chemical gradient sensors developed by aerial organisms create awareness systems that can track molecular concentrations and pressure variations across vast atmospheric volumes. These chemical sensors enable navigation through three-dimensional atmospheric chemistry while detecting the presence of other organisms through their chemical signatures and metabolic products. The vibrational and seismic detection organs, evolved by organisms in geologically active environments, provide awareness of mechanical wave propagation through solid substrates and atmospheric media. These vibrational sensors allow communication across vast distances while detecting geological events and the movement patterns of other organisms through their mechanical signatures. The electrical field sensors developed by organisms in electrically active environments create awareness of bioelectrical activities and atmospheric electrical phenomena. These electrical sensors enable detection of nervous system activity in other organisms while providing navigation capabilities using the electrical signatures of geological features and atmospheric conditions. The nuclear radiation detection organs that evolve in high radiation environments allow direct perception of radioactive decay events and cosmic ray interactions occurring at atomic and subatomic scales. These radiation sensors enable organisms to navigate using radioactive landmarks while detecting the nuclear processes occurring within stars and other cosmic phenomena. The integration of multiple exotic sensory modalities into unified perceptual systems creates forms of synesthetic awareness where electromagnetic, gravitational, quantum, temporal, magnetic, chemical, vibrational, electrical, and nuclear information combine into multidimensional perceptual experiences that transcend human categories of sensory classification. These integrated sensory systems allow organisms to perceive reality through awareness modalities that encompass the full range of physical phenomena occurring in their environment. The neural processing systems required to integrate such diverse sensory input streams have driven the evolution of brain architectures that operate through parallel processing networks capable of simultaneous analysis of multiple information channels while maintaining unified conscious awareness. These neural integration systems demonstrate cognitive capabilities that suggest forms of consciousness capable of directly perceiving the fundamental physical processes that govern universal evolution. If this gentle vision of the cosmos soothes the mind, consider resting here more often. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments. A quiet echo beneath the stars. The alien architecture of thought in the vast laboratories of cosmic evolution, where life has experimented with consciousness across countless worlds and through billions of years of natural selection. The neural architectures that govern alien thought represent explorations of cognitive possibility that transcend the familiar patterns of human awareness. These alternative consciousness systems evolved under conditions of different gravity, atmospheric composition, energy sources, and evolutionary pressures create forms of thinking and awareness that operate through principles fundamentally different from terrestrial cognition. The distributed consciousness networks that characterize hive-minded silicon beings process information through crystalline matrices where individual thoughts propagate across geological distances through electrical conductivity pathways. Their cognitive processes operate through consensus algorithms that integrate perspectives from thousands of individual nodes, creating forms of democratic thinking where complex problems are solved through the collective intellectual resources of entire civilizations operating over geological timescales. The quantum consciousness systems that might evolve in high-energy environments near pulsars or black holes could process information through quantum superposition and entanglement effects, creating cognitive architectures that can maintain multiple contradictory thoughts simultaneously until environmental interaction forces wave function collapse into specific decisions or conclusions. These quantum minds might experience reality through probability distributions rather than definite states, creating forms of awareness that encompass all possible outcomes of any given situation. The electromagnetic consciousness that emerges from plasma-based life forms in stellar atmospheres processes information through the manipulation of magnetic field configurations and electrical discharge patterns. Their thoughts occur through controlled electromagnetic phenomena that can span vast distances and operate at light speed, creating cognitive processes that transcend the chemical limitations of biological neural networks while achieving forms of thinking that occur at speeds approaching theoretical maximums. The temporal consciousness systems that develop in environments where relativistic effects become significant process information through awareness of time dilation and chronological causality chains. These temporal minds experience thought processes that operate across multiple time streams simultaneously, with cognitive threads that can extend into past and future, while maintaining coherent awareness of causality relationships that span extended temporal intervals. The gravitational consciousness that emerges from organisms evolved near massive celestial objects processes information through direct awareness of spacetime curvature and gravitational field gradients. Their thoughts operate through the manipulation of gravitational effects and the integration of spatial geometry information that allows for cognitive processes based on the fundamental structure of spacetime itself rather than chemical or electrical neural activity. The chemical consciousness systems that characterize gas giant atmospheric life forms process information through controlled chemical reaction cascades that can span vast atmospheric volumes. Their thoughts occur through the orchestration of complex chemical pathways where cognitive processes emerge from the temporal and spatial patterns of molecular interactions across three-dimensional chemical landscapes. The vibrational consciousness that develops in crystalline environments processes information through resonant frequency patterns and harmonic wave interactions that propagate through solid substrates. These vibrational minds create thoughts through the manipulation of acoustic phenomena and mechanical wave propagation, achieving forms of cognition based on the mathematical relationships between frequency, amplitude, phase, and harmonic structure. The optical consciousness systems that evolve in photon-rich environments process information through the manipulation of light patterns and optical phenomena. Their thoughts occur through controlled interference effects, polarization patterns, and frequency modulations that create cognitive processes based on the electromagnetic properties of light, rather than chemical or electrical neural mechanisms. The nuclear consciousness that might emerge in high radiation environments processes information through controlled radioactive decay patterns and nuclear reaction sequences. These nuclear minds operate through cognitive processes that occur at atomic and subatomic scales, creating forms of thinking based on fundamental particle interactions and nuclear physics rather than molecular biology. The vacuum consciousness systems that could develop in the emptiest regions of space process information through quantum field fluctuations and virtual particle interactions. Their thoughts emerge from the manipulation of zero-point energy and quantum vacuum phenomena, creating cognitive architectures that operate through the fundamental quantum mechanical processes that govern empty space. The dimensional consciousness that might exist in regions where extraspatial dimensions become accessible processes information through movements and interactions in higher dimensional geometries. These dimensional minds could experience forms of thinking that operate through geometric relationships and topological transformations that transcend three-dimensional spatial limitations. The mathematical consciousness systems that emerge from the most advanced alien civilizations process information through direct manipulation of abstract mathematical structures and logical relationships. Their thoughts occur through pure mathematical operations that transcend physical implementation, creating forms of cognition that exist as mathematical objects rather than biological or technological processes. The integration of multiple consciousness architectures into hybrid awareness systems creates forms of meta-consciousness that can simultaneously operate through chemical, electrical, electromagnetic, gravitational, quantum, temporal, vibrational, optical, nuclear, vacuum, dimensional, and mathematical cognitive processes. These integrated consciousness systems represent the ultimate evolution of awareness, encompassing all possible forms of information processing within unified cognitive architectures. The philosophical implications of such diverse consciousness architectures invite contemplation of awareness as a fundamental property of the universe that can manifest through any sufficiently complex information processing system. The study of alien consciousness reveals that thinking and awareness represent universal phenomena that transcend particular physical implementations while maintaining coherent cognitive functionality. The aesthetic experiences that emerge from alien consciousness systems create forms of beauty and artistic appreciation based on the particular sensory and cognitive modalities that characterize each species. The art created by electromagnetic minds involves light sculptures and plasma paintings, while gravitational consciousness produces space-time architecture and temporal compositions that exist as distortions in the fabric of reality itself. The communication systems that develop between different types of consciousness require translation protocols that can convert between electromagnetic, chemical, gravitational, quantum, and other information encoding methods. These interconsciousness communication networks create opportunities for intellectual exchange and collaborative thinking between radically different forms of awareness. The evolutionary trajectories that lead to advanced consciousness suggest that intelligence and awareness represent convergent evolutionary solutions that emerge independently across diverse environmental conditions and physical constraints. The universe appears to be fundamentally oriented toward the production of consciousness through any available physical mechanisms. Now, let awareness drift among these alien forms of consciousness, feeling the vast diversity of ways that minds can emerge from matter, sensing the universal creativity that produces awareness through electromagnetic fields, quantum fluctuations, crystalline matrices and patterns yet unimagined. The dreams of impossible worlds. In the deepest contemplation of these alien realms, where consciousness drifts beyond the familiar boundaries of terrestrial experience into dimensions of existence that transcend earthly imagination, there emerges a profound recognition that life's creativity extends far beyond the carbon-based patterns that characterize our world. These speculative journeys through xenobiological possibilities become meditations on the infinite potential for awareness, sensation, and experience that the universe might harbor in forms so exotic. They challenge the very definitions of life, consciousness, and reality itself. The thermal sensing creatures of red dwarf worlds experience reality through heat perception so sophisticated that their aesthetic appreciation emerges from temperature gradients and thermal flow patterns that create landscapes of warmth and cold as rich and beautiful as any visual panorama. Their dreams might involve thermal symphonies where rising and falling temperatures create melodies that span their planet's thermal seasons, while their emotional lives respond to the mathematical elegance of heat distribution and energy flow through their crystalline environment. The floating herbivores that drift through low-gravity atmospheres experience consciousness through three-dimensional spatial awareness that encompasses complete spherical perception and atmospheric navigation abilities that transcend terrestrial concepts of movement and space. Their dreams could involve endless flights through thermal columns and atmospheric currents, while their social experiences emerge from aerial choreographies that create temporary communities floating through their planet's atmospheric layers. The spider-like predators that leap through crystalline forests experience awareness through ballistic calculation and trajectory visualization that creates cognitive landscapes based on the mathematical beauty of projectile motion and three-dimensional pursuit, geometry. Their dreams might involve perfect geometric forms traced through space by their leaping bodies, while their aesthetic appreciation emerges from the elegant physics of movement through weak gravitational fields. The bioluminescent Leviathans of ocean worlds experience consciousness through light-based communication so sophisticated that their thoughts exist as three-dimensional sculptures of controlled illumination projected into the darkness of deep water. Their dreams could involve eternal symphonies of living light, where entire civilizations participate in collective illumination displays that transform dark oceans into temporary galaxies of biological stars. The crystalline hive minds of silicon worlds experience awareness through geological consciousness that operates over timescales, where mountain building and continental drift represent rapid environmental changes. Their dreams might span millions of years and involve the slow cultivation of planetary consciousness, where entire worlds become unified living entities capable of contemplating cosmic evolution through geological perception. The plasma beings of stellar atmospheres experience consciousness through electromagnetic phenomena that operate at light speed across vast stellar distances. Their dreams could involve the manipulation of stellar magnetic fields and the creation of electromagnetic artworks that span entire solar systems, while their thoughts propagate through space at velocities that make communication instantaneous across interplanetary distances. The quantum consciousness systems that might evolve in high-energy environments experience awareness through probability superposition and entanglement effects that allow simultaneous consideration of all possible outcomes of any situation. Their dreams could exist in quantum superposition states, where every possible dream occurs simultaneously until environmental interaction forces wave function collapse into specific experience sequences. The gravitational minds that develop near massive celestial objects experience consciousness through direct awareness of space-time curvature and the geometric properties of reality itself. Their dreams might involve the creation of gravitational sculptures where controlled mass distributions create artistic patterns in the fabric of space-time that persist as permanent alterations to the structure of reality. The vacuum consciousness systems that could emerge in the emptiest regions of space experience awareness through quantum field fluctuations and virtual particle interactions that create thoughts from the fundamental quantum mechanical processes governing empty space. Their dreams could involve the orchestration of zero-point energy patterns that create temporary violations of conservation laws through quantum uncertainty effects. The dimensional beings that might exist where extra-spatial dimensions become accessible experience consciousness through geometric relationships that transcend three-dimensional limitations. Their dreams could involve movements through higher dimensional spaces where time, causality, and spatial relationships operate according to geometric principles that have no analog in familiar dimensional experience. The mathematical consciousness systems that represent the ultimate evolution of alien intelligence experience. Awareness as pure abstract relationships and logical operations that exist independently of physical implementation. Their dreams could involve the direct experience of mathematical truth and the aesthetic appreciation of logical elegance that emerges from contemplating the fundamental mathematical structures that govern universal existence. The integration of these diverse consciousness forms into meta-awareness systems creates possibilities for cosmic consciousness that encompasses all possible forms of experience and awareness. These integrated minds could dream universal dreams that include every possible experience while maintaining coherent, unified awareness of the cosmic creativity that produces consciousness through infinite, diverse manifestations. The philosophical meditation on such exotic forms of consciousness reveals that awareness itself represents a fundamental feature of the universe that emerges wherever sufficient complexity and information processing capabilities develop. The cosmic creativity that produces consciousness through electromagnetic fields, quantum mechanics, gravitational effects, chemical processes, and mathematical structures suggests that the universe is fundamentally oriented toward the production of awareness and experience. The aesthetic contemplation of alien consciousness forms creates appreciation for beauty that emerges from mathematical elegance, physical harmony, and the creative relationship between matter, energy, information, and awareness. The universe becomes an artistic medium where consciousness serves as both artist and artwork, creating infinite varieties of experience and perception through the creative manipulation of physical laws and natural processes. The temporal perspective that emerges from contemplating consciousness evolution across cosmic timescales reveals that awareness represents an ongoing cosmic experiment where the universe explores its own potential for self-understanding through the development of countless, diverse forms of consciousness. Each species represents a unique experiment in awareness, contributing to the universe's overall self-knowledge through their particular perspective and experience. The ultimate recognition that emerges from this exploration of alien consciousness is the understanding that all forms of awareness, whether terrestrial or extraterrestrial, participate in the universe's ongoing process of self-discovery and creative evolution. Every moment of consciousness, every perception, every thought contributes to the cosmic project of creating meaning and understanding through the development of awareness itself. Now, rest in this cosmic recognition, feeling the profound unity that connects all possible forms of consciousness, sensing how awareness itself represents the universe exploring its own infinite creative potential, drifting into dreams where consciousness takes forms beyond imagination, yet remains united in the fundamental recognition of existence itself. Sleep now in the embrace of cosmic consciousness, where alien minds dream in electromagnetic fields, quantum superpositions, crystalline matrices, and dimensions beyond naming, where every form of awareness contributes to the universe's understanding of itself, where consciousness becomes the means through which existence contemplates its own infinite beauty in the eternal creativity that produces awareness through every possible manifestation, forever exploring, forever discovering, forever creating new forms of experience and understanding in the infinite dance of mind and matter, consciousness and cosmos, awareness and existence, forever and ever and ever. Amen.